So, thank you, Kasam. First of all, a very good morning to everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. And I know it's not easy to join session on Saturday morning. We all work very hard during the weekdays, and on Saturday morning, we again get to learn something new. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and joining the session. Second, I want to say a sincere thank you to Kasam and the Azure community for giving me an opportunity to speak into their great initiative for Azure AI learning series. It's an honor to be part and associated with the Azure community. So with all said, hope you're gonna enjoy this session for next 1 hour. I'll be sharing some insightful details about the Azure automation, and let's get started. All right. So today's topic is about Azure automation. Now, before I begin, just a quick introduction for myself. Kasam I've covered, just a little bit from mine. So my name is Manish Ranglani. I'm working as a cloud manager come technical architect for Databricks Global Service Limited in Mumbai. I've got 12 years of experience working with Microsoft technology. I started my journey with SharePoint Office 365, and later on moved to the cloud engagement, where I deal majorly with Azure and AWS deployment. I write a blog. So this is my blog website, Cloud Scoop, where I share insights about cloud and recently the OpenAI and ChatGPT sort of topics, plus on the low-code, no-code solution, which is Power App. And this is my LinkedIn handler. So what's the agenda for today? Well, I'll be covering what is the Azure automation, what are various features of Azure automation, for example, the process, configuration, update management, where you're going to use these services, where it will fit into your deployment model. Most importantly, what are the use cases, plus the costing. So costing is again one of the factors we need to be very thoughtful, for all the services which are there on the cloud, like how much it's going to cost me. At the end of the session, I'll be sharing some of the important announcements for the Microsoft. So stay tuned for that. So Azure automation. Well, automation is one of the most talked about topic when we say in the cloud world. So automation can vary based upon the kind of deployment that you have. And there are a number of services in Azure offering that can help you for the automation. So for example, there's a service on Power Automate, Logic App, Function App, Azure Automation. Now, every set of service which I've just mentioned give you some sort of offering in the automation. So what's the difference between all of those? So Power Automate and Logic App, they are more sort of declarative programming. Means you have a built-in triggers and connectors and actions. You just drag and drop, automate your process, your workflows, anything that you want to automate. And that's basically the major use case for basically people who are not detail doing the programming. They are not the hardcore developer. They can still use those sort of automations. On the other side, we have the Azure automation plus Azure functions. So Azure function, again, like one of the serverless offering, which help you to do some sort of automation. Now, what's the difference that Azure automation will provide in terms of features, capabilities, and how it stands out? So first of all, Azure automation is one of the most sort of service in Azure. If we talk about the main three landscape where it can be useful. So first of all, your deployment and management of your resources. Infrastructure is a core. Now, infrastructure we know anything in the service in Azure offering, you can deploy that as a code, be it your virtual machine, Kubernetes, your container application, VMs, all those things. Response and event-based automation. So, for example, if something wrong happened with your deployment, what action, what trigger that needs to come out of it. So it's okay if you have smaller set of deployment, one or two virtual machines. What if you have tons of virtual machine and number of deployments going around in your Azure subscription? It becomes a bit difficult for a cloud engineer or basically the operation guy to go and see each and every service manually. Again, may not be a easy task because again you have to go and monitor each of those services. So there, automation can help you to understand what is going wrong, how the event-based automation can help us and identify and troubleshooting those issues. Orchestration. So Azure Automation not only gives as a standalone feature, plus it very well gets connected with number of other Azure services. For example, your Event Grid, you've got a Power Automate, your APIs, so on and so forth. Okay. Most importantly, you see management of Azure and non-Azure environment. So in this time, if you see most of the customer, they either go with a hybrid model, multi-cloud model. They can have the application deployed on different environments. So here we are not just talking about the Azure, where you will be having the resources. Now understand the scale where you have all these different services deployed on different cloud providers. Now how you want to manage this? That is where the power of Azure Automation comes into the picture. Plus, it gives you, of course, the complete control of the deployment and the operation, activities. Just a holistic picture, how and where it will provide the value addition. So, majorly, you can consider this divided into the three categories. One is a process automation, configuration management, update management, and of course, the integration of the various services which I just talked about. So most of the services in Azure that you can use, they are very easily connectable with the Azure services. Now let's talk about the first process, which is a process automation. Now, what is process automation? Well, as I said, you can use number of services for the automating of your processes, be it your Power App, Power Automate, Logic App. Now, how process automation for the Azure automation is different. Now, as the name suggests, you want to automate certain processes. Any process which you feel it is time consuming or you're doing it repetitively, can it be done automated? It's going to save your time. It's going to save the operational cost. Yes, we can do this with the help of Power Automation. Now, I'll be showing you the demo of all three services: process automation, configuration management, and update management as well. Plus, once you create the automation, what next? You want to use this automation. How? Either you can schedule the automation, you want to do a set of repetitive action at the certain defined intervals, you can do it. Yes. Second is, you want to integrate this automation with the external system. So for that, there's a capability, something called as webhooks. So webhooks you can consider as a sort of endpoint URL, which you can use to trigger the Power Automate process automation. As I said, it gets very well integrated with the Azure services, and it will be very useful for doing this day-to-day operational activities. Now, for example, what are activities that we do? So let's say most common scenarios is to start and stop the virtual machines or any sort of deployment for that matter. So let's say your customer is using your application and they're doing the operation on weekdays, let's say Monday till Friday, and over Saturday and Sunday, they don't want machines to be up and running. So you don't want a person who will be sitting And at morning 9 o'clock, turning on the virtual machine. At the evening 6 o'clock, turning off the virtual machine. That too for every day of the week. And over the Saturday and Sunday, it's like completely turn off the virtual machine. No, there's no need. You can use a process automation to streamline that process. Second, you can build and deploy various resources like virtual machines, deleting the orphan resources. So by the time it happened, you have got the larger Azure deployment. It happened like some of the resources which are provisioned, but they are not actively being used. Why you want to keep those resources? So what you can do, you can periodically scan your Azure deployment, see are there any resources which are not being used, any zombie servers which are there in your Azure, but those are not getting utilized. They are just consuming the energy, the cost, and every aspect of it. Why to keep this? You can delete it. Another example, let's say you want to have automation on the clearing of the cache for the Azure front door cache. So Azure front door is again one of the service, and it basically provide the load balancing plus the caching. Will not go into the detail of it, but if in case you want to periodically delete the cache, you want to refresh the cache, you can use it. You can do it with the help of process automation. Hybrid automation, so it very well get connected with the other services, SharePoint, Office 365, Power Apps. Monitoring and integrating alerts, very important part. If you have anything running, it's okay as long as any issues or anything comes, you can trigger the alert to various services. Now, DB management. It happened like you have got your SQL server, let's say Azure SQL, for example, and it happened like you want to remove the old data. You want to purge the old data. You want to do a reindexing of your database. Again, that's a sort of operational activity which, as a best practice, you should do the reindexing of your database to optimize the load time, query processing. Again, that activity for that maybe a burden of the DBA will get offloaded with the help of process automation. You write the script, it will take care of everything. And any batch processing that you want to execute over the night, you want to get the data from the storage account, and simple sort of lift and shift. You want to get the data from storage account, keep it into your SQL database, or any other service, you can do with the help of process automation. Configuration management. Now, again, it's one of the interesting topic, configuration management. Now, as the name suggests, it will monitor the configuration of something. Of what? Linux servers, Windows server, which are deployed in your Azure, on-premise, or other cloud. Could be GCP, AWS, anything. What it monitor? So quite the time it happened, you have number of deployment, number of servers running. Every server definitely will have some sort of daemons, some sort of processes deployed. And softwares, registry key, these are the very important parts when it comes to the virtual machine. Now, quite a time you have faced this scenario where a developer is working on a machine. They do some sort of deployment. Accidentally, it changed something. Let's say your Windows service, it changed the registry settings, and there's a fight between IT team and the developer. Like, who did this? I have not done this. Okay, now who did this? That's where the configuration management play an important role. It will monitor all the activities which are listed here and integrate with the Azure automation. It will help you to understand which item under which server on which date has been modified. And it will keep the track of all those activities which are being performed. All right. So it's time to see a demo. I'll switch to the demo now. I hope you can see my Azure portal screen right here. So how to get started with the Azure automation? First of all, navigate to your Azure portal, go to the automation account right here, or you can also type the automation account here. Click on create. Okay, I'll just quickly create one of the automation account. You have to provide some parameter. For example, under which subscription, under which resource group. I'll put the name, let's say demo automation, and I'm deploying it, let's say in Central India region. I'll keep rest of the service as it is. I'll not change anything here. Now what it does, it will trigger a request to the Azure, and it will create one automation account. It's done. Let's go to the resource. So once you create the automation account, this is how the UI will look like. So the main things here, you see configuration management, update management, the process automation. I'll show you the demo of the process automation and the configuration management now. And later we'll see the demo of the update management as well. So one of the important part here is called as runbooks. So runbooks is where you can automate your time consuming activities. What you need to do, click on the runbooks. It's taking time. Let me go to the another automation which I've just created. Now showing me the Azure runbooks here. Let me open in some of the browser. Okay, it's started loading now. Things. Let me try in some other browser. Okay, sorry. Okay, it's working in Edge browser. Something wrong with the Chrome. I don't know. Sorry, excuse me for that. So here we are. So I've just created the demo automation. Now this is where you can go and create the runbooks. So in order to do so, come here in under the runbooks, click on create runbook. It will show you some of the parameters that you need to provide. For example, name, runbook type, and the version. So let me say I want to create a demo runbook. Which type? You can create the Python, PowerShell, graphical PowerShell sort of runbooks. Let me pick the PowerShell. Let's say create. So it will create a new runbook here. Okay, our runbook has been created. Now, what we want to do with it? So let me create a scenario here. Let's say I've got one uh, Azure container, a lightweight Azure container service running in the Azure, and you want to automate the start and stop of this service. Now, how can you do this? So, first of all, let's create a container instance, a lightweight container instance. Okay, so this is my container. So now, once this resource gets provisioned, it will give us one container public IP, which we can go and access it. Okay, let's go to the resource. A lightweight container I have. This is my public IP. All right. So here it's working. Now, what next we want to do? So let's say you want to create a scenario where you want to turn it off at the 6 p.m. Okay. So what you need to do, I've got this ready-made script with me, a PowerShell script. What it will do, it will log into the Azure, connect with the Azure account, and it will simply or stop the Azure container. Okay, of whatever name that you've provided and the resource group. Okay, so this is my Azure container instance. I will save it. So now my instance is running. I'll stop it. So the expectation would be as soon as I run this script, it should turn off the instance. Okay, let's start. So a command has been given to the Azure Automation account. It is queued. So now what should happen? The container which is running should get stopped. Okay, see what's. Let me see if I've enabled the identity. Okay, so I have to actually go and provide the access to automation here. Let me give a contribution access. Okay, so now let us go and try to execute a runbook. Okay, so you see my container has been stopped now. There's no IP address is assigned to it. It is asking me whether you want to start it or not. Okay. So this is just a script that we have written. Now, what we need to do? Well, this is where the main magic will start. So you've got the Azure runbook created. What you need to do, you want to schedule it. Schedule, okay, I need to publish it in order to schedule it. So overview, edit, let me publish it. Okay, runbook has been published. So now what I need to do, I want to schedule. So schedule in a way where right start from, let's say, Monday, every day at 6 p.m., my runbook will get triggered. I want to keep it recurrent. Time zone, specify under which time zone. Let's say if your customer is in India or in respective regions, just select that region every day. Okay. Or you can also define the interval week, month or so. Let's say I'm saying every day, I want to schedule this automation, this runbook. Okay. So you want to set the expiration, yes or no? I want to say it will be valid only for one year or so. So there's an expiration that you want to set. Create. Okay. Name here. Done. So every day, automatically at 6 p.m. of in Central Europe time zone, runbook will get triggered. It will execute any of the logic that you have written in the runbook PowerShell. No need for a person to sit and start and stop the container instance. Now, this is just example for it. You can automate the services, for example, your Kubernetes deployment. If you've got virtual machines, simply you just write the command. I've written the command for the stopping. Similarly, you can create a one more runbook where it will start the container instance at morning 9 o'clock. Okay. After schedule, you also have got the option for the webhook. Now, webhook, as I said, it will give you a URL. Now, this URL, you can use it in any of other application, Power Automate, Power App, even your custom application to trigger this runbook. So I'm saying create a new runbook. Okay, webhook. This is my webhook one. You want to enable it or no? Probably you don't want to enable maybe as of now, but later a point of time. So I'm saying yes, enable it. This should be expired, let's say after a year. So on like 11/5/2024, this webhook will get expired. And this is a URL which I can use to trigger this runbook. Okay. It will create a new webhook endpoint. Here it is. Now this URL I can use to call from external system. And this is the post HTTP call. Okay. And once I trigger this, it will initiate the runbook. Okay. Let's see a few other options here in the automation account. So you can definitely create a new runbooks if in case you want to import existing runbooks which are already created and published by the Microsoft. So let's say from the gallery. So in gallery you'll be able to see a number of runbooks which are relevant to for day-to-day operations. Okay. I want to like schedule the scaling of the Azure database, update management, turn off the virtual machine, which I've just explained. There are a number of modules which are available. You can go and explore it. Okay. And I mean, definitely the gallery is a way where you can see the number of published runbooks. What else? We've got jobs. So every job which will get triggered once you run this runbook, it will be displayed in the jobs. Okay, it's a kind of history, like when this runbook was executed last time. So if I run this runbook, if I trigger it, it will create the history record over there. Plus, you can see the number of parameters here. What inputs? Definitely, you can also provide some of the parameters to your runbook. So you can configure your user providing the few parameter like the name of virtual machine under which resource group, and that needs to be turned on, turned off. It will show you the output, any error or warning which are coming from that automation. Okay, so once that gets executed, we'll see a complete state when it was executed. So it had completed the execution. All right. What next? There's something called as a hybrid work group. So runbook, something we understood, which will allow you to manage the resources in the Azure. What if you want to run the runbooks or the automation against the resources which are not part of your Azure deployment, which reside, let's say, in some other on-premise or the data center or any third-party cloud provider? You can even run the runbooks in that configuration as well. So there, the advantage of hybrid work group, basically hybrid runbooks come where you connect the different resources with the automation, and you just trigger the runbook. The way it is run for the resource in Azure, similarly it will run for the resource in your data center, on-premise data center. There's something called as shared resources. So these resources will be kind of shared within your runbook. So for example, schedule. So I can attach a schedule to multiple runbooks. Each will run independently. Any modules, any custom module that you have created, Python packages, connection, credential variables. So if any common variable that you have created, you want to use it across the different runbooks, you can even do that. So the process remains same. You create the variable, okay, of type. You want to keep it encrypted or no? Encrypted basically will help to minimize the attacks and infusion of the any value. Okay, so this way it created the variable. This name variable I can use across the different runbooks. No need to specify any sort of common configuration, any connection string, which you want to use it repeatedly for number of your tasks. You change it at one place in one variable. All the runbooks which are using this variable will automatically get the new value. Same goes for the certification and any connection. If you are creating a connection with any of the Azure service also, that sort of connection you can also keep it configurable. Okay, this was ostensibly you understood what the process automation is. There's one more service which we just talked. It's a configuration management. So
Manish, one question here.
Yeah.
This hybrid workers you told, right? We can automate our on-prem data centers or any cloud VMs or any kind of other cloud services. So my question is how we will authenticate to the Azure? Is there any agent need to be installed or anything called to connect the other machines or other services? What is the prerequisite for that?
Sure. I'll show you that in a demo. But as you said, yes, there's an agent which needs to be installed in those virtual machines which are not part of your Azure, and that agent will send the data. Or basically, what will happen? That agent will pick up the whatever command that you've triggered. Okay, so there's an agent for the Windows, there's an agent for the Linux machine, 32 or 64-bit, and that agent needs to be installed on those virtual machines.
One more question. So the hybrid environment automation also work for the other cloud provider, like agents is also available for the other cloud providers, like
Yes, yes, it will. So inventory. So here, what will happen here? We basically need to create one log analytics workspace where all the virtual machines which are there into your in this example Azure, they will send the data to the other workspace, a single workspace basically. And using that workspace, it will analyze what all changes have been done into the existing deployment. So it take some 10-15 minutes. So for the demo purpose, I already have one of the workspace configured. So this is one of my workspace where it says how many virtual machines which are there, and what all configuration in terms of the registry, your software, your Windows services, so on and so forth has been there. If any new software which is getting installed, it will show us right here. Okay. Now I'll also show you. So it says, of course, add Azure VM, non-Azure VM as well. I'll show you that in a couple of moments. Change tracking. So again, it will show us what all things has been changed. So for example, if I show you this thing, it says these all are the unchanged property, but one property has been changed in that virtual machine. What it says, for this service, diagnostic system host, the value which was there before running, now it has been stopped. So some change has been done, okay, in that virtual machine. Similarly, for any sort of software changes, for example, there's some software which has been added here for the ops manager. What all changes has been done? It shows right here. So there's one software agent which I've installed, which get installed, and it will keep the track of all these services. Okay. Now what? You have got your services being monitored. Now, how will you get notified something goes wrong? In that case, here comes the log analytics. So in log analytics, you can configure the alerts. Okay. So let us run the query. So in this, I just want to keep the track of all the configuration changes. If you want to keep the track of only specific configurations, for example, you want to get notified only if somebody have messed up with the Azure services, software installation is okay. You can write the query here. Okay. And for that query, you can create a new alert. So for this query, definitely it is showing me all the configuration changes which has been done. So for example, what has been modified, what has been removed, okay, what has been added, so on and so forth. Okay, this entire data, it will monitor. For that data, I'll create a new rule, and there how the standard rule you create. So it says configure when an alert should get triggered at what specific logic. So query, this is my query. On this query, if anything coming, it will trigger an email or whatever notification channel you have configured, SMS, email, that will get notified accordingly. All right. Now, coming to the third part of the demo, which is a update management. Now, before I get into the update management, a quick comparison between the runbook and the function app, because I've seen most of the people asking me like, what's the difference between both of them? Both provide some other sort of automation, some other way you can use it, both the services, but there's a difference in the purpose where those will fit in. So first of all, runbook is basically you can use it for scheduling some batch processing which can run over the night or the longer duration. Function app is sort of the serverless offering from the Azure, where people who are coming from the AWS background, they know they can relate it with the Lambda. You run it for a small piece of time, you get charged only for that particular compute utilization. Again, runbook don't have any sort of plans as such, whereas if you go with the function app, so function app is having different sort of plans category, providing different offering. You've got basic, standard, and premium plan. Runbook, you majorly see being created for with the PowerShell and the Python. However, you have more flexibility if you're the dev and working in the let's say Node.js application, Python, or the Java application. Function app provide that sort of capability. Again, most important, hybrid run. If you want to automate something with the hybrid deployment, runbook is the right option for that. Function app doesn't provide, as of today, any sort of hybrid deployment. So you run within the umbrella of Azure, right? However, if you can see in a small diagram, like automation, you can extend that capability with your hybrid runbook deployed in non-Azure platforms as well. Update management, one of the, again, a very important topic. So it is very important for all of us, especially the system admins, to keep our infrastructure up to date so that it can deal with any sort of malicious attack. So that involves periodic maintenance, patching your servers, installing upgrade firmwares, so on and so forth. Now, again, if you have one or two servers, it's okay to go and log in into that server. So Microsoft generally, if I talk about the Microsoft and the Windows OS, so they generally, I think, release the updates on second Tuesday or something of every month. So it's okay, like on this date, update will come. On that particular weekend, I can go and install me update. But what if you have got 100 servers? It is difficult for an admin to log into all those servers one by one and start the update process, start the installation process. That's very tedious. How about you have got on-premise? So now you might be knowing about the Azure Arc capabilities. You project your on-premise other data center into the Azure, and you want to handle a very large sort of deployment. So a single pane of glass is something that Azure will provide, where you can manage all these services at the scale. Tomorrow, if you have 10 more servers which are being used in your data center, you can onboard those servers as well with the update management. Okay, no need to log in into those servers and run the updation. No detail. I'll show you that in a moment. So let's get to the update management demo. Okay. So here, again, one more important thing, it is showing me there are two critical security updates which need to be installed. So 2 out of your 3 virtual machines that you have added in the update management are non-compliant. You have to go and do some action on those VMs. Now, if you see, it is showing me 3 virtual machines right here. However, if I show you my actual VM deployments in Azure, it is showing me only 1 virtual machine. Something interesting here. It's showing me my AZ VM. This is my AZ VM. Fine. So what are these 2 machines? Well, if you can relate, I mean, people definitely can relate. EC2. So can anybody tell me what EC2 you can relate to?
Amazon virtual machine.
Exactly.
Virtual machine. Yeah.
Amazon machine. I have onboarded one AWS virtual machine with the Azure Automation account. You can see the platform here. There is only one virtual machine which is there on Azure. these two virtual machines are not part of your Azure. So EC2, let me show you here. I've got one virtual machine running here in my EC2 instance. This is my AWS account. This is my my Windows server, which is being used here. And I'll not get inside and basically this is my EC2 instance, which is says compliant. Win 9A basically is 3EV. This is my on-premise virtual machine. I have got my Hyper-V installed in my local on-premise. And if I show here, sorry. So this is my virtual machine. You see, this is my virtual machine on Hyper-V software I installed in my on-premise environment. And this is my virtual machine. I've connected this to Azure Automation. Now, how this connection has been done? Now, one of you have rightly pointed out, what we need to do, we have to go and install one of the agent on this. So we get one agent basically for the kind of server that you want to onboard, let's say Azure, basically Windows or Linux, 32-bit or 64-bit. You download that agent, install it on your virtual machine outside of Azure, connect it. Now, how to connect it? Again, very important point here. So there's something called as log workspace. Okay, there it is. You see, there's an agent you need to install based upon the type of server that you want to use. In that, when you install it, you need to provide these parameters. So when you install that exe file, in that it will ask you, you are installing a agent, it's fine, but with which workspace you want to connect it. So if you have number of workspaces, you just have to mention the workspace ID and the primary key whenever you're installing it, and it will take maybe 30 minutes or so. It will then start analyzing the health and all those things of your virtual machine, and then you can play with the hybrid playground. Okay. Now, if I show you right here, okay. So you have got these virtual machines. Okay, it says two of the virtual machines are non-compliant. Okay, what you need to do? I want to schedule an update deployment. Okay, give it a name. Okay, for which OS? Let's say Windows, and you can specify the machines here. So here, like I show you, these are the non-Azure services, non-Azure virtual machines. Okay, and what sort of updates you want to install? You want to give Azure authorization only to install the critical update. The rest of the service pack, feature pack installation, you want to keep it with you. You have that flexibility as well. You want to only, let's say, service pack or critical updates, you want to give it to Azure. Exclude any of the updates. So quite a time it happened, like Microsoft, they released some of the KBs as well. And there is some ID which is associated with those KBs. You want to mention, please install everything, exclude if there are KBs with this ID, just for the sake of example. Okay, I've mentioned to exclusion. What next? You want to schedule it. I want to schedule it every month. So every month, I will install the updates on, let's say, second Saturday of that month. Okay, and again, show you the expiration. You want to set a expiration of the schedule, the similar setting that we have seen in the run book or the webbook scenario. you want to set the expiration, by default, it will take a year expiration. Say OK. And there are a few other options. For example, if you want to reboot once the updates has been installed, you want to reboot, you don't want to reboot, or always you want to have the reboot as a best practice once you are done with the installation. Those sort of things, options you can specify. Click create. So it will create the deployment, and whatever the period that you have mentioned, it will, based upon that, it will automatically take care of all the settings which has been mentioned by you. Okay. So this was regarding the update management. Now we have seen like how we can onboard the update management, Azure machines, non-Azure virtual machines, and how can we schedule the deployments. Just minimize it.
Just one thing. On which machine we need to install this agent?
So whatever machine that you want to get connected with the Azure account, that you need to connect here.
Okay, means that if the Linux machine need to be managed by the automation account, then we need to install that agent into the Linux machine, right?
That's right.
Okay. If we need, like, if the number of machines are, like 10, 15 machines are, we need to manage that, all this machine need to be installed with the agent, right?
Correct. So for Azure virtual machine, by default, the agent will get installed. If you want to onboard any of the non-Azure virtual machine, for that you need to go and install the virtual this agent.
Okay.
Manish, this non-Azure machines, what you have added, that is through the Arc service you have added these machines, or we can directly add the non-Azure machines to automation account?
So you have the provision to add it through the Azure Arc as well. But in this particular demo, I have not used the Azure Arc. I have directly downloaded the Azure agent and installed it on the different virtual machine outside of my Azure. These are both the option available. However, Azure Arc give you more flexibility in terms of deploying other workload. Just to add on to that, so not only virtual machine. Now Azure Automation give you the flexibility only to maintain the virtual machine. Arc will give you the option to handle your Kubernetes deployment, your SQL Server, your edge computing, your IoT devices. Those everything you can bring under one umbrella with the Azure Arc. So you have both the options available. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Manish. Thank you.
Okay. So we have got 5 minutes remaining. I quickly show you the 2 important slides here. First of all, the costing and the important announcement later. Costing. So process automation by default, as you can see, 500 minutes per month, it is free. Azure will not cost you anything. After that, in the Indian currency, if you see like 0.16 rupees per minute, it will charge for whatever amount of minutes you are being consuming. Configuration management, Azure nodes free. Microsoft will not charge you. Any of the non-Azure node, again, 5 nodes in a month, it's free. Beyond that, 489 something rupees per node, it's gonna cost you. Update management is free, no cost, pro bono. Here the important announcement that I was talking about. Number 1, Azure Automation Run As account is going to get expired in next 6-7 months. By September 30, it will get expired. Now, what is Azure Run As account? So in the automation, if you see the run books here, there's something called as Run As account. At the similar sort of message you will see here. So it's kind of a bit old way of authenticating your run books, where when you enable the Azure Runners account, you need to provide some sort of credentials in your runbooks, which is not sort of recommended way. Rather, the recommendation which Microsoft is giving, use the manage identity. This is the identity. So here you select the identity. It will internally give the permission to your runbooks to run it on different services. So for example, if you want to, so this is, I've given two permission to it. One is I've given the role. Can you please go on a mute? Guys, I request if you can please go on a mute. Thank you so much. Yeah. So different sort of roles that you can assign here. So at the different scope, okay, you want to give the permission only at the resource group, you can do it. So it will have the access to all the resource in there and under the resource group. What sort of role you want to give? You just want to read the reader, contributor, basically you want to do some sort of CRUD operation, you can use the contribution as well. And then save it. Accordingly, the permission will be given. Second important update, announcement from the Microsoft is log analytics agent. So now for this data collection, there are two options. One is the log analytics agent, which I've just shown you. Another is there's something called as Azure monitoring, a monitor agent. So log analytics agent, they already deprecated. I mean, the service will get stopped next year by August. So it is recommended if you have any of the workload running using the log analytics, it's the right time, shift it to the monitor agent, Azure monitor agent. Again, the process remain kind of same. You have to set the data collection rule, which the log analytics also does. It's collect the data and project it to the automation. Similarly, the same thing will be done by the Azure monitor agent. Another important announcement. So Microsoft has recently released a new extension for the Azure Automation for the Visual Studio Code. So if you guys have worked with the Azure Automation, or if you've seen this demo, so there was minimal capability for the developer to go and author, especially debug that. Now what will happen? So here I've got my Visual Studio Code here. You need to go and install one of the extension for the Azure Automation. Okay, Azure Automation, still it is in preview. There are few changes which could be expected. Once that is done, what will happen? You will be able to see Azure Automation right here. I've got one subscription under there. These are the two automation accounts which I've just created. Okay, you'll be able to see same set of capabilities, runbooks which have been created. So demo runbook which I've just created here. Okay, you can also do the same thing. You can create a runbook. The same sort of capability which we say, let's say VS runbook. What sort of runbook you want to create? PowerShell. Okay, it will create a new PowerShell runbook for you. Once that is done, just right click and deploy. So you can do all sort of the development activities which you could otherwise have limited option in the portal itself. So you can publish the runbook, you can start the automation, very important. You can run it in the local, and the debug capability. You can start your runbook in a debug mode. Okay, this is one of the very important capability which I've seen, and it's very useful to debug the runbook. Otherwise, we have to rely only on the stream part. So I'll recommend to go and explore this feature. I think with that, we have covered the automation parts, and these are the benefits which we have talked during the course of the session. It, like pay-as-you-go model, provide you one-click sort of deployment to get the resource onboarded from the different areas. You can extend your capability outside of Azure. Yeah, that's it. So I'm open to any question, guys, if you have. Otherwise, we are done with the session.